Yo, what up guys? So if you didn't see my last video on the previous solo dungeon, today or this week we have a new solo dungeon and it's called it's still called Hall of Illusion, but we have two new bosses called Lionhead and UMBRAKAN. Now these guys can be a little tough if you don't know the mechanics, but just like the previous one, it's super easy once you understand the mechanics, okay? The very most important thing to remember is, I said this in my last video as well, but if you look on the mastery tree, it is very important to grab this Bloodseeker passive for daggers. This isn't absolutely needed, but this makes it extremely easier to do this solo dungeon. It allows you to mess up some of the Q blocks and whatnot and just take damage by, messing up a mechanic and still live, you know what I mean? And also it just allows you, it's just safer, okay? You will do lower damage, however, but like I said, safer. So if you wanna use this for your first couple runs and then maybe take it off afterwards once you get comfortable, that's completely fine. But yeah, let's jump into the solo dungeon. Like I said, it's very easy. I did the solo dungeons at tier 4, so I don't have enough gear for tier 5 yet, but yeah, let's jump into it and let me explain the mechanics for you guys. Before we do jump into the video, I do want to let you guys know I saw the comments on the last video about how people were running out of mana and how the build is not efficient. I know that that build that I'm using is not something I'm trying to say is the best build for PvE. So in this video, I'm actually using Freshy GG's PvE build. I'll link that video down below in the description. Freshy's another YouTuber and does good content on Throne of Liberty. And I know he has a really good build for PvE. So I asked him about what I could use, and I'm basically using his build for PvE, and it's pretty efficient. With that talent that I showed you guys, the one that's in the Dagger tree, with this build, it's kind of like really strong in a solo dungeon. So I'll link his video down below. Make sure to go check it out. Pretty easy to get used to as well, but it makes use of basically the Culling Arc and doing the Brutal Fury and stacking the burst stacks instead of doing the flame. So your mana issues really shouldn't be a problem. If you're running out of mana, then it's probably something else, but you'll see in the video, I really don't run out of mana using this build. So on this first part of the solo dungeon, there's going to be dwarves that will spawn at every corner of the map, as you can see. And all you have to do is stand in the middle. They will rush towards you for the first couple of phases. Afterwards, there'll be ranged ones in the corner, and you'll see me kind of group them around them because they don't obviously move. But this is fairly easy. Just group them together. With your passive, you should be able to out-heal anything they do to you. Depending on what tier of the solo dungeon that you're doing, they're gonna have an extra mechanic. Okay, so for tier 4, for this one, they had the healing totem mechanic, so you can see those are getting rezzed. You can typically out damage through them. If you can't, just pull them out of the totem, walk away and make them follow you, and then just kill them again. It's super easy. You can learn, you don't have to stand anywhere specific, but you basically just kill them. I think there's 2 waves where they come back to back, and then you get to choose a power up. It's randomized out of 3 of them, and you do that 3 different times, and then if I had to choose my favorite power up out of the ones that are randomized, I think it's called the pool doll or something like that. You'll see it. I do it on the second part of it, but basically what it does is just it pulls all of the dwarves in for you, so it's super easy to cleave them down. Makes it super fast, and as you can see, if you get some pretty good power ups, you can get through this whole phase here pretty quickly. But like I said, super easy to do this whole phase. You should not struggle at all. If you do, pull them out of the totems. If they start stunning you too much, because it starts getting like that at the later phases, just make sure that you Q block the commander when you see him. Sometimes you can kill him too quickly so you won't even notice it, but if there's a commander and he starts doing the little Q block animation, just block that because that one will stun you. Other than that, you should be perfectly fine. Okay, this boss is super simple. Once you, I know he looks a little scary, but all those little blue slits on the floor, if you walk on them, they will reduce your move speed. So just try your best to avoid them. It's not the end of the world if you walk through them. But yeah, keep that in mind. When he gets to this point in your rotation, he's going to teleport to the very middle and he's going to jump. All you have to do is jump at the right time, and then make sure that you try to stand closer to a totem, because the next thing that he's going to do is start the mechanic. The only mechanic that you really need to know, because I think at higher tiers, if you mess this up, it'll one-shot you. But all you need to do is, there's 3 pillars on each corner, as you can see, and they have symbols above their head. All you need to do is stand next to whatever totem you're at, and then walk towards the guy walking around that has the same symbol. He's usually very close to it, and then he'll like get sucked into the totem, and that totem is done. And then you do the same thing for the other 2 totems. Make sure when this happens that you run to the totem first. It'll give you the link and you'll see it between you and the totem, and then you run to the character or to the guy that's running around with the same symbol. And then as soon as he goes in, you go to the next totem. It's super easy. I know it may seem kind of scary at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's super easy and you should be able to finish the fight. If you mess up and you don't do it in time, I think he does a ton of damage. He might one-shot you, but he typically does like 3/4 of your health. So just, it's super easy to not mess this up. So just go to the totems, grab them, pull them in, and you should complete this mechanic. That's really the only thing to this boss. As you can see, I'm just gonna do the same thing and repeat it over and over and over until I kill him. As usual, the third level of the solo dungeons are typically like a puzzle or like a speed thing. All you have to do is just run through this whole obstacle course. Obviously, the green is good, the red X's are bad. If you stand on the red X, you take damage. So just make sure that you walk on the green things. Super easy to do. When it starts to blink yellow, that means that it's going to turn into red. You'll get the hang of it. Just run through this. Should be super easy. You should not die unless you're just not paying attention. Now this boss can be the toughest throughout the whole solo dungeon, but honestly he's super easy once you understand what you need to do and his one-shot mechanic. So I really advise taking stamina on this one because that's really primarily what you're going to be doing the whole time. You're going to be dodging all of his Qs. So there's two key things to really remember in this fight, and the first one is to stay as close as you can to him at all times. Even if you are a ranged character, I know I'm doing this for spear daggers, but if you're ranged, you need to stay right up on him. The reason for that is he won't actually do his fury attacks, and you need him to get to 7 fury attacks blocked for him to not one-shot you. So always make sure you stay right up on top of him. And really the second one is make sure you hit as many Q blocks as you can. You need, if you look at the very top of his health bar, there's every time that you block one of his fury attacks, there's a stack that goes next to his name. You need to make sure that you get that stack to 7 before he gets to like his, I guess, end phase. If you don't have the 7 stacks, he actually shoots a beam and he'll one-shot you completely. If you're successful and you get all 7 stacks, he's gonna jump to the tree and you have to jump with him. And then you get like a free DPS phase because he kind of kneels down and you can do as much damage as you want to him. Once he gets up, he jumps to the very middle. You'll need to jump with him, and then he'll do 3 fury attacks in which you need to roll. They get a little bit faster each time, and that's honestly it. Once you've mastered that first whole phase, that's literally the only thing that he does throughout the whole fight. So once again, make sure you stay as close as you can to him. Every time he jumps backwards, you need to run up to him and stay as close as you can. And always make sure that you cue all of his fury attacks, every single one. I think you can miss maybe like 1 or 2, maybe even 3, it really depends, but try to hit all of them. Honestly, it gets easier and easier the more you do it because you see his like animations and you know when he does it. The only advice I could really give for this guy is if you wait to the very last second to dodge his fury attacks, sometimes he could push you before the actual dodge. So just make sure you kind of do it preemptively, you do it a little bit ahead of time. You'll see what I mean when you start doing it yourself. But super easy boss once you understand the mechanic, just dodge his fury attacks. And that's the whole thing. Super easy. Like I said, once you understand the mechanics. If you guys get stuck on anything or have any questions, feel free to leave any comments down below, or you can ask me always on Discord. I try to answer as many questions as I can. So yeah, hopefully this video helped you guys out in some way, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.